Alrighty, this is Decent We the People News. Okay. Not attorney, not giving legal advice. Alright? We don't never look straight forward. We always look around us, be able to protect ourselves by any means necessary. This is educational. Okay? It's not legal advice. Really, it's the separation, right? Over a ticket, you go to jail and be tortured in handcuffs and all that kind of stuff. But when they break the law, there's no punishment. There is no justice. Period. Within reason, right? Tell me when the last time you actually seen an attorney or a judge or a magistrate actually being arrested. Okay? Not fined, not losing their job, but actually legitimately arrested.
I want to be clear about another issue. I'm not saying police departments should be turned into courts of appeal. Not at all. They're not vested with judicial power. I'm not talking about a police department reviewing a judgment that was made with lawful authority. I'm talking about judgments that are unlawful, where crimes and treason are being committed, and there is no remedy in the judicial branch of government that is committing the crimes and using its power to cover it up by denying lawful remedies. Here it is in the words of James Madison, the so-called father of our Constitution.
An elective despotism was not the government we fought for, but one which should not only be founded on free principles, but in which the powers of government should be so divided and balanced as that no one could transcend their legal limits without being effectually checked and restrained by the others.
The executive branch was specifically intended to be a check and balance on the judicial branch when it usurps authority. And if a judge exercises authority that he, she, it, they, them, there doesn't have, and takes money, property,
Write them words down. Okay? They do have meaning in law, at law, of law.
or liberty without lawful authority, you have the right to go directly to law enforcement. And if there's a right to an appeal, to do that as well, even simultaneously. I know I've used the word treason a lot, so I feel it's important to provide some foundation. Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution, also known as the Supremacy Clause, declares that this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. It does not declare that the arbitrary lawless acts of public officials are the supreme law of the land. According to Webster's Dictionary of 1828, treason is, quote, the offense of attempting to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance, or of betraying the state into the hands of a foreign power. Treason is the only crime that's defined in the U.S. Constitution. In Article 3, Section 3, it declares two means of committing treason. It says, quote, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort, end quote. Public official...
I'm going to stop right there. So, the question is it treason by the United States Republic that reformed themselves into a corporation? Y'all decide that.
Duties under the Constitution are like opposite sides of the same coin of authority. Generally speaking, if a public official takes some act that is forbidden, or refuses to take an act that is required by the Constitution, it can rise to the level of being equivalent to leveling war on the sovereignty of the American people to overthrow their government by installing a new arbitrary government. The only thing the Superior Court judge had authority to do in this case was to immediately dismiss the complaint upon filing for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. While disguised as a remedial civil action under the Business and Professions Code, what the statute really prescribes is a penal action to impose monetary punishment for the commission of a public offense of contracting without a license. Because private citizens lack standing to prosecute other citizens, and no complaint was ever filed on behalf of the people of the state of California to prosecute me, there was no authority to commence a criminal prosecution, much less impose any fine whatsoever or suspend my vested right to earn a living as a general contractor.
And this is the reason why you got to look up the statutes, right? The statutes may say $5,000, okay? But, that being said, how did they get you to be fined $1 million? Or $500,000 or $100,000? when the statute specifically says 5,000. And then the judge says, you lose. You had to pay $100,000, even though the statute says 5,000.
The judge my case was submitted to thereafter had a mandatory duty to examine the jurisdictional underpinnings and to immediately vacate the judgment that was void on its face. They all refused. While that was happening, I went to these executive officials and to the legislature. They all refused to fully investigate and intervene. If even one of these branches of government fails, there is no lawful government. If they combine their powers and refuse to act as a check and balances upon one another, there is no lawful government. Here it is in the U.S. Supreme Court's words. We have no more right to decline the exercise of jurisdiction or authority which is given than to usurp that which is not given. The one or the other would be treason to the Constitution. To find the U.S. Supreme Court cases on this or any other provision of the U.S. Constitution, you'll want to search for Constitution of the United States of America, Analysis and Interpretation. It's a PDF file. I've provided a link in the bottom right-hand corner. After the treasonous judgment order was signed by the Superior Court judge and filed on the case docket, more egregiously unconstitutional, cruel, unusual, and excessive punishment was unleashed by the state. The general contractor license they claimed I didn't have became suspended or revoked by operation of another statute because I couldn't afford to pay the judgment or obtain a bond. This resulted in yet another bill of pains and penalties, as there was not even a hearing prior to the imposition of this egregious punishment. Despite the fact that I exhausted the farce of judicial remedies and made all these complaints to the executive branches of California and the United States, I have never actually been heard, and all the rights purportedly guaranteed by the California and United States Constitutions in this situation have never been recognized. At this point, all I've seen is a collection of so-called judges, cops, and legislators committing treason while either refusing to exercise authority that they do have or exercising the authority that they don't, and stealing money from the public treasury for a salary. In part 2, we'll take a deep dive into the systemic fraud, treason, and other criminal corruption I found in the judicial systems of California and the United States as I walk you through every attempt I made to have my case resolved all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. We'll also look into the history of the licensing laws in California and how they're egregiously unconstitutional, how the common law courts in California and the United States have been unlawfully abolished, and how jurisprudence on judicial and qualified immunity is yet another act of fraud, deceit, and treason to shield rogue judges from civil liability for committing crimes on the American people.
That being said, y'all, get a copy of the Congress 42nd Act of the Civil Rights, right, in 1871. Get a copy of that. It's got 16 words in there that they've been ignoring. All right? Due to, and the reason why Congress did this is because when they abolished slavery, they were still being punished and secluded and all this kind of stuff. So Congress came up with that to kind of start cleaning that mess up. And then they turn around and ignore it and give cops a qualified immunity, which by Congress, which is letter of the law, a letter in writing, that the judicial branch from the top to the bottom must obey. So, the lower courts cannot break the law in writing. So they'll say, well, you had to take it to the Supreme Court. No, because they're not allowed to break the law, as well as the Supreme Court's not allowed to break the law. So we got to even challenge the small courts saying, hey, wait a minute, you're all breaking Congress law in writing, and you're not allowed to do it, regardless what the Supreme Court says.
If any of you, including the public agencies involved in this complaint, would like to resolve the claims for restitution and damages I clearly have against you for trespass fiat armis and or deprivation of rights, please contact me.
Alright, so we're going to end it here. Review all these things. Go directly to there if you don't want my interruptions. It's several different parts. It's 54 minutes long. So it's better for you guys to actually go there. It's for my education. Okay, I'm just sharing it. All right, and if I in time need to look it up, I know it's in my file and I don't have to go particularly looking it up through them. Okay, these will be the People News. Till next time, never look straight forward. Always look around you, be able to protect yourself by any means necessary, and always invoke the Constitution. Okay, from them trespassing upon the men and women's rights of the people, for the people, and by the people. Till next time, bye y'all.